I am delighted to welcome you to the launch of the African Guarantee Fund Green Guarantee Facility. My name is Charles Wetherill. I'm with the Nordic Development Fund, and I'll be your MC for the evening. And I'm very disappointed to see so many non-green ties in the audience. David, I think you're the only one. Very good. The Nordic Development Fund is the joint finance institution for climate and development of the five Nordic countries. Those are Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, and Sweden. We are the newest shareholder in the African Guarantee Fund and the financing partner for the Green Guarantee Facility. Our program today features opening remarks from our senior host, Ambassador Heikki Tuunanen, who represents the Nordic and India constituency here at the African Development Bank as Executive Director. This will be followed by a presentation by Mr. Felix Bigbo, the CEO of the African Guarantee Fund, and short commentary to follow by three distinguished guests, Mr. Stefan Nalitambi, Acting Vice President of the African Development Bank for the OIVP complex, and the Director of Financial Sector Development Department, Ms. Natalia Feinberg, Temporary Governor for Denmark, and Mr. Pasi Helman, who happens to be my boss at the Nordic Development Fund, Managing Director. We'll have a short Q&A to follow, time allowing, and then we'll all take a much-deserved cocktail and continue with some small discussions in groups on the side. If there are press in the audience, there will be opportunities for one-on-one interviews at the end of the event. I'm very pleased to introduce someone who I've come to know over the last 12 months, who heads the African Guarantee Fund. And while I wasn't there at the beginning, it's very clear to me that he has successfully steered this ship from zero to cruising speed in 2-3 years and achieved remarkable results. So without further ado, Mr. Felix Bigbo, it's your stage.
Nice to meet you. It's very stressful after all these nice words. I hope that I deserve them. Yes. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to extend my thanks and appreciation to all of you for joining us for the official launch of the African Guarantee Green Energy Facility, I call it Green Guarantee Facility. As we launch this new facility, we look back with pride as the acceptance of a new institution by the African international financial market, and look forward to meeting the need of a young African as we contribute to the continent development. Convinced that SMEs must play a key role in poverty reduction and achieving the MDGs in African countries, the African Commission in 2009 called for the establishment of the African Guarantee Fund, we call it AGF, which will channel guarantees and technical assistance to financial institutions with the objective of generating enhanced growth in African SME sector, thereby creating increased employment in the continent. Today, AGF is no longer just a concept, but a real institution. The first African institution really dedicated to mobilizing private resources for SME development on this continent. It was conceived, designed, and supported using lessons learned from the other African international financial institutions. An initiative of the Danish government, Spanish government, and the African Development Bank, recently joined by the French government via Agence Française de Développement and the Nordic Development Fund, AGF was set up in 2011 and started operation in 2012. In 3 full years of operation, AGF has developed a portfolio of guarantee of $250 million USD, making available $500 million of financing in 35 countries in the continent via 60 financial institutions to reach more than 1,300 SMEs. At this stage, please allow me to sincerely thank our current partners, all banks and other FI who had confidence in AGF and decided to finance the SME sector with our support. We are looking forward to significantly increasing the number of these partners every day, every year. Ladies and gentlemen, the shareholders of our institution felt that there was value in committing resources and effort in such an enterprise, and no amount of sacrifice could override the importance of the mission, because hanging in the balance was the sustainable development of our continent. Therefore, the employment of our youth, resulting in reduction of poverty. There is a consensus among these shareholders that there is a strong correlation between the sustainability of the African economic growth that we are looking for and the energy consumption and, more generally, environmental issues. Generally, in the continent, insufficient supply of energy affects all aspects of development, more specifically, social, economic, environmental, and even quality of life. Yeah. Improvement in standards of living are manifested in increased agricultural output, increased industrial output, the provision of efficient transportation, adequate shelter, healthcare, other human services, and these will holistically require increase in energy consumption. Therefore, energy is considered as an important requirement for economic growth, and it is potentially an inhibiting factor to economic and social development. Currently, over 645 million Africans do not have access to electricity. 700 million have no access to clean cooking energy. Africa has what it takes to achieve universal access to energy services while reducing the carbon intensity of its growth. The continent has a huge solar potential, a huge hydroelectric potential, a huge wind potential, and a huge geothermal potential. And this is an enormous potential for African SME to turn environmental challenges into business opportunities. As stated above, AGF believes that the real engine of the growth in Africa is the SME sector. This economic growth can be sustainable if it is environmentally sustainable. This is why AGF decided to establish a green guarantee facility, which is intended to enhance access to finance for climate and green growth-oriented SME, and to build knowledge and capacity of banks in Africa to scale up lending to green economy. This is expected to bring direct benefits in terms of climate change mitigation and adaptation, as well as sustainable employment, poverty reduction, and gender opportunity. This facility was created with the support of the Nordic Development Fund. NDF support to AGF was packaged in two parallel financing instruments. Direct support to Green Guarantee Facility, structured as a shareholder equity for €6 million. Complementary technical assistance support was provided in the form of a grant to the capacity building trust that we are running for €1.5 million. Pursuing environmentally sustainable and responsible economic development in the continent must be the goals of all of us. So please allow me, before I finish, to warmly thank the NDF, which is giving us the great opportunity to contribute to achieving these goals. Dear Passy, on behalf of the shareholders of African Guarantee Fund, welcome to the family. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Felix. This is a little bit of a unique situation for me because I have my current boss in the room, but I also have a former boss in the room. And if I look at Tim Turner back there, I have another former boss in the room. So this is sort of past and present. Stefan Nalitambi is the acting vice president for OIVP complex here at the bank. He is the director for the Financial Sector Development Department. And one more piece of his profile is that he is actually a board member on AGF. So, Stefan, thanks very much.
Thank you, Charles. Excellencies, honorable governors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great satisfaction to participate in the launch of this innovative adaptation of the Africa Guarantee Fund's highly successful program of support for SME financing in Africa. And I should add that, as said by Charles, that I speak as an acting AFDB vice president and also as an AGF board member. So the bank and I both happily for this success. The introduction of the Green Guarantee Facility could not be more timely, responding to the imperative of delivering intelligent financial solutions to tackle the undersupply of energy on the continent. Green growth in Africa will be achieved through a weave of numerous strands of innovations, starting at the macro policy level, addressing inefficiencies in tariff regimes and fuel subsidies, all the way down to well-grounded operational programs such as this AGF-NDF collaboration. The ADB strives to put itself at the forefront of the drive towards green growth in Africa, made manifest through the bank's New Deal in energy in Africa with its ambitious target of universal access by 2025, which entails 100% urban access and 95% in the rural areas. Concretely, the bank has made a COP21 commitment to 12 billion in energy financing over the next 5 years, 2016 to 2020. The New Deal on energy takes a holistic view of the energy sector's requirements to ensure that the root causes of undersupply are systematically addressed and thereby lay the foundation for growth. The breadth of this ambition will comprise all components of the energy space: on-grid generation, transmission and distribution solutions, including mini-grid and off-grid home solutions and systems. More generally, the bank recognizes that to meet this challenge, it will have to expand the scope and volume of its activities. We will take full advantage of our strengths, but we will also build areas where our intervention have been less developed in the past. Scaling up our capacity to catalyzing finance is a salient example. This means leveraging our balance sheet through equity investment, co-financing and risk mitigation instruments that allow our partners to deploy their resources to the fullest. In this context, the AGF-NDF Green Guarantee Facility is truly at the cutting edge, placing emphasis on the crossover space between economic activity, job creation, and green growth. Despite an awareness of the need for greater investment in climate-intelligent growth, promoting projects, perceptions of the risk inherent in banking new technologies remains high. As a result, the flow of private sector credit into green projects is far from sufficient, particularly when led by smaller corporates and sponsors. At the same time, it is precisely smaller, more nimble companies in non-traditional sectors that may be more willing innovators. They still face skeptical bankers on the ground. This is where the AGF Green Guarantee product can mitigate real and perceived risk, and thereby catalyze lending, make projects bankable, and drive climate-efficient outcomes. This is smart development finance. I congratulate Felix and Pasi for leading the way with their forward-looking initiative, and thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Stefan. It would not be, I think, appropriate to talk about the African Guarantee Fund without talking about the role of Denmark in its establishment. And so it gives me great pleasure to welcome Natalia Feinberg, the temporary governor for Denmark, to the stage.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure being here. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Also from my side, I'm very pleased to welcome the NDF on board as a shareholder in the African Guarantee Fund. As I think Felix already alluded to, it started out as an idea from the Danish Africa Commission in 2009, and now it has grown into a successful organization encompassing the majority of the continent. Among the key focus areas of the Africa Commission was unleashing the potential of young African entrepreneurs and providing access to sustainable energy. The fact that the African Guarantee Fund can now address both of these key issues is indeed very positive. The African Development Bank has been instrumental in setting the African agenda on green growth, on sustainable energy and climate change, as well as on private sector development. And access to energy is a prerequisite for achieving many of the SDGs. So we are happy that our partnership with the bank and the Spanish government is growing, and also that more partners are joining to further facilitate sustainable green growth and climate resilient development in African economies. Promoting sustainable growth in developing countries is an important Danish priority. Resource-efficient technologies on, for example, energy and water are key to this. This is also why we have supported the idea of the Nordic Development Fund adding a new green window to the AGF. Catalyzing increased private sector funding into sustainable infrastructure is critical, and this is what the AGF does. Danish companies hold strong competences on renewable energy technologies like wind and biomass, as well as resource-efficient water technologies. These technologies are key to address the sustainable development goals. I feel confident that the Green Guarantee Facility will be a success in providing much needed finance and green climate SMEs. The AGF can thereby be one pillar in the bank's ambitious plans to provide continental access to energy for all by 2025. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The Green Guarantee Facility grew out of a side conversation that took place between Felix Bigbo and Pasi Helman at an event not unlike this almost 2 years ago. Not every conversation that takes place in these corridors materializes into something concrete and exciting, but this one certainly did. So I'm very pleased to welcome Pasi Helman.
Thank you, Charles. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and friends, being last speaker on the list, it gives me some kind of uneasy feeling to say that I'm disappointed with the previous presentations. Disappointed because they were also excellent that they left very little for me to add anymore at this stage. So thank you very much to all you. Nevertheless, I wish to say something very briefly. First and foremost, our appreciation to AGF management and administration led by Felix Bigbo for working very swiftly actually with us on this. We signed a memorandum of understanding, a very general memorandum of understanding on collaboration just 1 year ago, also at the African Bank annual meeting. And it took us less than 12 months to come up with a concrete, new, innovative financing instrument or model. So I think that is an achievement actually. Also appreciate the role of the original shareholders, Denmark, Spain, and the others who have joined since then, or the other AFD. Denmark's role has been explained here. It's been crucial in order to establish AGF because of the wisdom of the Africa Commission led by the then Danish Prime Minister. But there's another role that Denmark has played, particularly for the establishment of this Green Guarantee Facility. It was namely the Danish Executive Director to African Bank, Heikki's predecessor, who for the first time introduced NDF to Felix Bigbo, also at the previous African Bank annual meeting. And since we also have the Swedish government through its development agency, SIDA, being a strong financial supporter, not an equity shareholder, but providing a substantial support to AGF, I think there's a very, very strong element of Nordic flavor and support to AGF. So Felix, you know it, you're always welcome to the Nordic capitals. For us, maybe the most important notion about the Green Guarantee Facility within AGF is that it's a clear demonstration of acting upon the political commitments and the general level statements made at the Paris Climate Summit and included in the climate agreement. This is very much putting into action green financing in the field of SMEs. This is very much demonstrating a model for an innovative financing instrument in partnership with the private sector or in collaboration between the private sector and the public sector. And what it actually does is that it turns climate into opportunities rather than challenges. So I think that's a big benefit and a sort of a new opening to the SME sectors as well. For us, this is very interesting and relevant because NDF at the strategic level very recently has set as its objective to leverage investments into renewable energy, energy efficiency, climate smart agriculture, cleaner production methods, better, more efficient and clean use of natural resources, and so on. And the Green Guarantee Facility can support all those. I have maybe two messages I want to convey at this event. One is to the partly to the AGF management and administration, and through it and also directly to the network of local financial institutions and banks that AGF cooperates through. It is to really make sure that you make this concrete, you take use of the facility, expand operations, also take use of the technical assistance possibilities that are offered to develop more green financing by African banking institutions, develop capacity and thereby also maybe make the AGF portfolio greener overall. And the second message is maybe to the donor community, some of or their representatives from that side here as well. I think this model is a good example of a public-private collaboration. We don't necessarily always or often call it that way, but that's what it is. It's bringing in public money which will leverage private money and which will benefit private sector development, focusing on the SME sector. So I think there's a lot to learn from this. There's lots of prospects and potential to expand on this. There's also prospects to replicate this, maybe even in some other regions than Africa. So with all that, I thank you for your attention and hand over back to our MC. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Pasi. Nicole or Akira? Okay. We have a few minutes, so I think we could perhaps take a few questions. I think we're actually being joined by the fourth shareholder of AGF that came directly before NDF. Is this IFD? Yes. Okay, welcome. I will take perhaps questions in batches, and feel free to direct questions to any of the speakers who've been here. First hand that went up. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm Edgar. No, I'm the managing director of BGFI Gabon. I would like really to congratulate AGF for this initiative. Felix being my former boss as well. So I also have another boss here. What I would like to ask as a question, it is to know what are currently the status of action that are being taken by AGF to really have the banks, the guarantee given by AGF as a risk reducer that is being recognized by our regulators, so that this could really add as a risk reducer, not only a real risk for our own balance sheet, but so that the regulators, that is, for instance, in Central Africa, COBAC, or in the West Africa, can take it as a full risk reducer that they recognize directly. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Carl Bakis from Sweden. I just wanted to make a very quick comment, basically echoing those who have congratulated you. Of course, as a co-founder of NDF, and as Pasi mentioned also, actually as a development partner for the ADF, I just wanted to mention that for us this is a really significant step, because it really binds together the three big agreements that we had last year. It focuses on climate. We have the Paris Climate Agreement. It really takes to heart, and that's my impression at least, the idea of, or sort of trying to, as Pasi was mentioning, to mobilize more private finance, and that's a core part of the Addis Ababa Agreement, the Financing for Development Agreement, and it does that to sort of build sustainable development. So I just wanted to extend my congratulations from our side as well.
Thanks very much. This is well received, and we do indeed see this as one of the concrete and perhaps swift follow-ups to the Paris Agreement. Maybe Felix, I'll give you an opportunity to respond to the first two questions. I think they were directed towards you.
Thanks. It can be how to be able to make sure that 20% of the women in this continent have access to job. We can define them. For us, we believe that something that can be acceptable is to be able to reach the level of 20,000 jobs created by the SME per annum. This is an objective for the next 5 years. To be able to reach there, we need an acceptable level of capital for something like $300 to $500 million. And we are working on it. Because with $500 million, leveraging on this, we'll be able to raise from the private sector at least $1.5 billion and direct these resources to the SME businesses. And that will have a real impact on it. So below that, for me, is nothing. And I hope that this kind of initiative will also give some idea to some other donors, as Pasi said, to join us. Because there is no way today, I'm answering your question also from Swedish, there is no way today, looking at the shrinking revenue of the public sector, that you can tackle the development issue alone. That's not possible. That's not possible. So how can we find some innovative financing method to get there, to fill the gap, is to go via experiences like the ones that we are doing with NDF. Coming to AGF, leveraging, giving the comfort to the private sector, banking I mean, to be able to raise the private resources and go there and be able to create this 20,000 jobs per year. That's what we believe we can do. Now, central banks. Edgar, happy to see you, a long time. This is being done. In West Africa is okay. Central bank is organizing the AGF guarantee to reduce the risk of the banks. That's very good. Central Africa is ongoing. The issue for us is the other banks which are, I can say, local, individual local banks. And we are almost, I can do 20 in Africa. So this takes us time. We're going bank by bank. Kenya is okay. Today I can tell you that out of 1,000 banks, or let's say 30 central banks, half of the central banks are okay to follow. So maybe by the end of this year, next year, we cover the entire content. It's ongoing. Thank you. I think I'm done.
Can I take a few more questions? Madam?
My name's Nancy Siame, and I'm a journalist. I don't know who can answer my question. I wanted to find out if at all there's a specific budget attached to this program and how many SMEs you are targeting, and if at all Zambia is a beneficiary. Thank you.
Do we have any follow-up questions? Tapera?
Mine is not a question, but Charles, I mean, I'm very excited. I think after our discussion and to see this come through, it's really exciting. But I just want to add, Felix, that access to money is great and very crucial. But I think other partners as well that will be supporting the enterprises will be crucial to make sure that they're able to pay back. And this is where I see our partnership going forward being very exciting.
So, for those who don't know, perhaps I could just explain that Tapera heads a green jobs program here in Zambia, which is financed by Finland, and very much is lining up with the SMEs, the sort of SMEs that might come to this guarantee facility, looking for guarantees on finance. So we have many of the stakeholders in different places in the value chain right here in this room. Thanks very much. Ambassador Okkanen.
Well, thank you. Just to congratulate on the initiative. It's really something that you see here in Zambia. I'm the Finnish ambassador to Zambia. The lack of, the troubles of accessing finance is a major hurdle, especially with the interest rates that prevail in this country in private banks. But there's another issue also with enterprises when they try to get started. The access to finance is one, but then to have a viable business model, to construct the business model, and not only to have that idea, and then also to have the capacity to administer that business, especially financial management, are some of these issues that also need to then to be tackled. This is more or less of a comment, but also when Tapera was mentioning about those instruments, then these legs are also very important when looking at the financing aspect that the capacity and the model and the equations for how to generate the profit should also be there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Maybe Felix, I'll let you take the question about the budget. And maybe I'd ask you to address one follow-up to that. You know the budget. Is the budget enough to address the demand?
The financing gap for SME in Africa is around $200 billion. Is that a budget for you? And it's not easy to fill this gap, and the gap is increasing and increasing and increasing. That's why the first question was asked to me, what do you believe that is an acceptable level to have an impact? Impact for us is also to reduce this budget, to reduce this gap. So it's not today. We started something. We hope that people will join this initiative. Some other will come also and find some innovative way to go, not the normal way of financing our countries or state budget to be able to tackle the poverty issue or the SME issue. No. Is finding a model, that the new model we call a blending finance model, to put together, to raise private sector money, to complement this public sector money, to be able, by the leverage system, to be able to reduce this gap. But this budget, I'm telling you, will grow and grow and grow. Sometimes we need to pray to make it reduce. So pray with us, and let's convince our donors here that we need to do something to be able to have a solution. Capacity building, one of the issues of the SME in Africa, yes, is access to finance, but it's not only access to finance. I'm a banker, and I used to tell my audience that when I was signing some credit, in one of the bank, I have a huge credit line authority. I never signed for an SME because the file are not coming to me. The biggest issue is SME has good ideas, good project. The cost of a project, let's say, is 100. We have only one in equity. So that's a big issue. How do we find the 91? The other one is sometimes when the project is coming, the management that is running this project don't have the appropriate skills to be able to do this project. So what AGF is doing, in addition to the guarantee facility, and I think I spoke about it, we set up a trust fund for capacity building only to be able to build the capacity of a financial institution for them to know how to assess the SME risk, but also to build the capacity of the management of this SME, for them to know how to use efficiently this money. So for us, it's a risk mitigant. It's not one or the others, it's both. You come to AGF, you make sure that you have acceptable capacity to do the business. If not, we help you to have it. And that's why when AGF came, they came in equity, they came also in capacity building for us to build the capacity of our SMEs and our also partners. So yes, that's one of our objective. Yeah. If you look at our goals here, somewhere in the middle, we put more job created amongst women and youth. If today I receive 10 requests of guarantee, out of them I have 5 women, we'll start by the woman one. That's clear. Yeah, we start by the woman one. And we try, the capacity building component is going more to the woman businesses than to the men. Because we know how difficult it is for a woman to set up a business and to run a business. So for us, our way to encourage them to do it more is to give them the support, not only the one of AGF, but the one of our partners also, to assist them. So women for us is, in fact, everywhere I'm going to see my PF, I told them, if you want me to reduce the guarantee fees, send me women files. So this is one component. If you send me women file of business led by women, I can be very flexible on the fees.
Is this institutionalized?
Yes. 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 Any file coming from women, if let's say the minimum guarantee that I want is 2%, I'm ready to pay my flat for free, and to give you the flat for free and go to 1.8% or even 1.5%, just paying the risk component of the business, not the margin, just to encourage women doing more and more, because the number of files coming from women is not 5 out of 10, is 1 out of 1,000. So the issue is more on the initiative from the women than from us encouraging them. They are more than welcome.
I have a message which is very difficult to deliver, and will make me the most unpopular person in this room. I may not have been popular to begin with. We have been abandoned by our beverage supplier. So this is heartbreaking news. You know, we're all counting on the drink. So there's an SME back there that needs a guarantee. On one side of the coin, you know, we haven't expended any emissions in delivering beverages to this event. But there is an event later tonight, which is being co-sponsored by African Guarantee Fund. And it's taking place at the very beverage supplier we were counting on, the Intercontinental. So I think perhaps we should all rise up in arms and go there and drink their booze. There's been a message that we have someone who's scrambling to get some drinks here from another event. So, you know, we can, for those who want, we can sort of stick around and have a few conversations on the side. And if there are any interviews that need to be done, we'd be happy to stick around with the press. Otherwise, we'll see you at the Intercontinental, and please leave an unhappy face for them on your when you give your rating as you walk out the door. But thank you so much for joining us, and we all look forward to seeing the results.